Hi guys, it's Mary. So today I am going to be doing a video about my favorite books that I read in 2016. Now, these books are not in order because I couldn't put them in order, and why would you want to put books in order? So let's just get started. So the first book I want to mention is actually the first book in a series. It is Bloodlines, book one of the Bloodlines series, and I love this series. I've read books 1 through 5. I got 6 for Christmas, but I haven't read that yet, but I'm really excited to. It is a spin-off of the Vampire Academy series. It follows the character of Sydney Sage as she has this assignment from the alchemist to protect Joan Mastrano, the half-sister of Lissa Dragomir, current queen of the vampire world, of the Meroyan Dampiers, who is in danger of being killed. And so Adrian Ivashkov is also in it, and Eddie Castile from Vampire Academy, and other Vampire Academy characters have cameos, and it's great, and I love this series. And I read this back in September and I loved it. I binged 2 through 5, and I'm really excited to read the 6th one. So I just love this series and I can't wait to pick up the final one. The next books I'm going to talk about are the first 4 books in the 100 Oaks series by Miranda Keneally. If you don't know what that series is, it's about a small town in Tennessee. It follows different characters in different books. Most of them are sports, but there is one that is not sports. It's at a camp, and it follows a Christian girl, but still other characters from other books show up. I love this series. It is one of my favorite series. The first book, Catching Jordan, is my favorite, and I reread that this year, and I may reread it again next year. I'm just so excited. I'm in the middle of book 5, and I have 6 and 7 on my shelf, and I can't wait for book 8 coming in this summer next year. And I've met Miranda, and she is fantastic. She is so nice. I have a picture with her. She's great. And I just can't wait to finish and read 5 and 6 and 7. They're great contemporary books if you want to read in one day, and they are so fantastic, and you need to pick them up. The next book is called The Season. It is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. This girl who plays soccer does not want to be a debutante like her sister. Her mother signed her up for this exclusive club so she could become a debutante with her sister. She'd rather play soccer. She doesn't want to do this, but she does this for her mother. She does this for her father. And along the way, she's falling in love. She's also dealing with balancing friends and soccer and debutante classes and impressing people, and how she portrays herself, how she changes. And I just love how the character of Lizzie is portrayed and twisted in this series. I love how it's kind of in a country setting, and her family has a farm, and she is just this amazing character, and the way the other characters are portrayed and retold are just fantastic. I wish there was a sequel. Unfortunately, there is not a sequel, but I love this book, and if you love retellings, please pick it up. Speaking of retellings, I'm going to talk about the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I read the first 2 books. They are so far a Beauty and the Beast retelling and a Hades and Persephone retelling. And if you don't know Hades and Persephone, it's a Greek story about how Persephone does this thing and she has to spend 6 months in the underworld every year with Hades. And that's kind of what the second book is about. But the first book is about this girl, Feyre, who kills a fairy, and in retaliation, another fairy called Tamlin comes to make her a deal that she come live with him or her family gets killed. So she goes with Tamlin to save her family, and obviously she's falling in love with him despite him being a fairy, despite all these obstacles between them, while dealing with a treaty between the humans and the fairies and this evil queen trying to rule over everybody. And then there's this character who becomes very important in the second book, whom you start to hate in the first book, but then you love in the second book. And I can't wait for the next one. I was very reluctant to pick up this book because I didn't like the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, who also wrote this series. I didn't know if it was the author, the writing, or the story, but I picked up A Court of Thorns and Roses, and I'm so excited I did because I love this series so much. And then the next book I found very intriguing, that is my favorite, that I didn't know if I would like or not. I was very surprised that I liked it, was Hex Hall by Rachel Hawkins, and it is book 1 of a trilogy. I've read 1 and 2, but definitely this one is my favorite. It is about a girl who is a witch, and her mother is mortal, but her father is something else. She doesn't know what, but she eventually finds out. Her powers are like uncontrollable. She doesn't necessarily know what she's doing or what is going to happen. So her mother sends her to Hecate Hall, nicknamed Hex Hall. It helps like witches and wizards and fairies and different kinds of magical creatures deal with like their powers and school. And she rooms with a vampire, which is very controversial in the series because the previous year there was an incident involving a character who was drained of blood, so obviously everybody thinks that the vampire did it because she's the only vampire in school, and the vampire thing is kind of controversial, but she's also dealing with different obstacles, like mean girls who are trying to get the girl to join their like little circle to help raise a demon. And it's just a fun little read if you love fantasy, if you love anything kind of like this story. I would definitely recommend picking up this first book. The second book was a little bit disappointing, but I liked it, and I can't wait to read the third book. The next book is actually a collection of short stories, and no, it is not the Bane Chronicles. Although I loved that book, it is the first 3 novellas of the Dorothy Must Die series called Dorothy Must Die Stories, and it is volume 1. There's volume 2, and I believe there's a volume 3 coming out. I'm not entirely sure. But this is about Dorothy coming back to Oz and what happens and like how she rolls. And they're just little fun little kind of stories to read about how she got back to Oz, about her rule, how she decided to rule, why she decided to rule, and how her ruling has kind of come to this store where everybody hates Oz and Dorothy when they once loved her. I can't wait to pick up the second volume and Yellow Brick War. I have both of those. I haven't read them yet, although I know the last book is coming out in March, I believe, or April, sometime like that. But I just love Danielle Page, and I also want to read Stealing Snow. The next books I want to talk about is See How They Run and Take the Key and Lock Her Up, which are books 2 and 3 of the Embassy Rose series by Ali Carter. I love this series. This is the third and final book, and it is great. I've already talked about the second book, which I found fantastic. This this is the perfect end to a series, and if there was any way to put it on a cliffhanger ending, she definitely did. I didn't know Ali Carter could get as good as she could, but it is amazing, and I love her, and I wish she would write more books in all 3 of her series. Now, the next book I want to talk about is something very dear to my heart, and it's called Tegan's Story, and it's about a girl with epilepsy. Her parents have died, and she has moved in with her brother and her new sister-in-law. She has absence and tonic-clonic, or grand mal seizures. She moved to a new school, and her seizures are very uncontrollable, and it's just her life dealing with this condition, and how her school and her friends react to it. And as someone with epilepsy and those kinds of seizures, it just kind of spoke to me. I read it really fast. I just couldn't stop turning or like clicking the pages on my Kindle. And it's just a really inspiring story. And I feel like it's one of those stories where you can relate to the character, because everyone kind of needs that story that they relate to a character. And I went looking for a story like this book, and I absolutely love it, and it's so great. And now on to a happier read that didn't make me sob my eyes out because of the emotional connection, is Bookishly Ever After. And I did a book talk on this and absolutely love this book. It's about a girl who would rather read and live in YA fantasy books than actual life. It is a great story about a girl who is finding out herself through this crush a boy has on her. She's using different stories, and she's using different books she loves to kind of harness that like feeling and kind of impress this boy, all while liking another boy. And it gets confusing at times out why she does this, but I read it very quickly. It is so great. Anybody who would rather live in this like a fantasy world would love this book. The next 2 books are actually by the same author. They are both series, and they are the Magnus Chase series and the Gods of Asgard, and the Trials of Apollo, the Hidden Oracle, first book. love these. I hadn't picked them up, and I hadn't picked them up yet. Magnus Chase came out last year, and I didn't pick it up till this past summer, and Apollo came out in May, but I didn't pick it up till sometime last week or 2 weeks ago. And I just kind of love Rick Riordan's writing. I love how all of his worlds kind of connect. I love how in the same universe, Greek gods and Roman gods and Egyptian gods and Norse gods all kind of live in these different things, and how all these characters kind of connect in some way or another. And it is just a great series. I can't wait to pick up the second book of Apollo series when it comes out. And I have the second Magnus Chase book, and I can't wait to read it. And so I'm very excited about that. And then the last book I want to talk about is This Ordinary Life. And it is also a book about seizures, but the main character does not have it. Her brother has it, and her mother is an alcoholic, and her mother doesn't really care. Her sister is really, the main character is really the one who knows about, who knows more about her brother's condition and her brother's medication. And she meets this boy, whom she becomes friends with, who also has epilepsy, and she wonders how she can deal with two boys in her life with epilepsy while dealing with her mother, whom she's trying to get to become more of a presence in her and her brother's life than she is. And I love this book because I kind of got to see this condition from another side, from a caretaker side, even though it was fiction. It was nice to see how this girl dealt with two of the most important people in her life having the same condition. What happens when something bad when something goes wrong, when something happens that you don't want to, and it's all coming together. It's kind of her tragic story. Her boyfriend cheated on her. Her brother has this condition. Her friend has this condition. Her mother is absent. Her father left, and the only one she can really rely on is her best friend and these two boys with epilepsy. And it's her story of how she deals with that. And I just love this so much. It kind of spoke to me in a way that other books didn't. Again, I went looking for books where I could relate to the main character. In this case, I didn't relate to the main character, but I related to the friend, and I related to the brother more than I did the main character or anybody else, obviously. But I definitely would recommend picking this book up, whether you have epilepsy, whether you don't. It is such a great read, and I think we don't talk enough about main characters in books, or characters in books with conditions, with whether it's mental, physical, or some other kind of condition. And I feel that that's very important, and I just love this. So pick it up, pick all of these books up if you can. What were your favorite books of 2016? Let me know down below. Subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye.